Let's take a few minutes to talk about the PullRite heavy-duty kingpin adapter for use with the OEX SuperLite fifth wheel hitches. This particular adapter, when you pull it out of the box, it's going to have all the hardware pre-installed. Your cross bolts, your jam bolts, and the jam nuts are installed on there. Now, to do the installation of this, you're going to need a few tools. You're going to need a torque wrench capable of 20 foot-pounds and 75 foot-pounds. You'll need an 1 1/8" socket and open-end wrench. And then you'll need a 3/4 inch socket and open-end wrench. Also, a little WD-40 will go a long ways, especially if you're dealing with a kingpin that's got any paint or corrosion on it. One thing that you'll want to do is put a little WD-40 on this opening here, and then clean up the kingpin as well. This is a fairly tight fit, so we want to make sure all the corrosion's off of the kingpin prior to installing this. So initially, let's remove these cross bolts. Just a bolt and a serrated flange nut and a washer. When you're installing this, make sure the washer is on the head side of the bolt, so keep that in mind. And then on these set bolts here, you want to make sure that they are loosened up to where they're flush with the bottom of the kingpin adapter. And then also make sure your jam nuts are brought all the way up to the bottom of the bolt of the head of the bolt. That way when you tighten it down, your jam nut's not bottoming out. So now we're ready to bring this over to the kingpin and install it. Like I said, I'll spray a little WD-40 on this opening. A little bit on both sides here. And then when I go take this over to the kingpin on the trailer, I'm going to grab one of these bolts that'll help hold it on. So now holding it, I just put the kingpin through this hole here and slide it up, and then it goes into the bottom hole on the bottom of the adapter. And then I'll take one of the bolts and just slide it through. So now you can grab your other bolt and your nuts. Put the second bolt in, and then you want to go ahead and put your nuts on the other side. Again, when you tighten these nuts, you want to go hand tight as you can, and make sure your bolt is pushed all the way through. This is going to make sure that it's you're just basically making sure the bolt on this side is pressed all the way in as you're tightening down those nuts. So now you can choose whether you install this with the ball ahead of the kingpin or behind the kingpin. There's benefits of this way. If you have a short bed, it's going to give you some additional cab clearance. If you go this direction, it's going to shorten up the overall length of your fifth wheel trailer and truck going down the road. A lot of folks with 8-foot beds run it like this. A lot of times if you have a short bed, it makes most sense to run it like this. Now we want to make sure this is square to the pin, not crooked in any way. So the easiest way to do that is sight right down the front or the side. You got to find a flat, surface, or a straight surface, I should say. The side of this is angled out and the front is flat across. So we'll sight it from the front, make sure it is nice and straight. And we'll want to keep an eye on that as we start tightening up our jam bolts. Now, there's 6 of these here, and we're going to start in one of the corners. I tend to start up in the front corner here. And I go close to the plate. I'm not going to tighten it up quite all the way yet, because I want to go to the back corner and make sure everything is nice and level. So I'll get down and look from this corner to this corner and get it as level as possible. And now I'll actually bring that bolt and make contact on both of these corners. And then I'll do the same for this corner and the back corner. Now it's a good time to double check, make sure that your jam nuts are backed off all the way still. And now we need to grab the torque wrench and set it for 20 foot-pounds. All right, we'll grab our torque wrench and we'll set it to just 20 foot-pounds. It's not a whole lot of torque, we're just putting a little pressure on these. Now, it's easiest if you use an extension with your socket, that way you can clear the cross bolts and all the other hardware. Again, we're set at 20 foot-pounds. We don't want to torque it all at once. We're just going to go maybe a half a turn on these, at least the first pass or two. So we'll start back where we started initially. So maybe a quarter or a third of a turn even. It's not even quite a half. So now I'll just repeat it again. And now my torque wrench is already starting to click, so I'm hitting that 20 foot-pound already. Okay, so I'm going to tighten up the center ones now. Doing the same thing, going side to side. Now these will just tighten up until the torque wrench clicks. So I'm going to make one more pass around the outside four. Okay, now everything is torqued. All 6 of those bolts are torqued. And now we need the open end wrench to tighten down the jam nuts. It's a good idea to take a look at everything, make sure it's still straight, nice and level. And then we'll just tighten up the jam nuts. They don't have to be very tight, just snug. Now the last step is going to be to torque the cross bolts. So we need our 1 1/8" socket, and we're going to change the torque and bring it up to 75 foot-pounds for these. All right, we have the torque wrench set. Going to get rid of this extension. It doesn't matter which order, we're just going to torque it to 75 foot-pounds. Just like that, the heavy-duty Kingpin or SuperLite Kingpin adapter is installed on the trailer and ready to couple up with your SuperLite 5th wheel hitch.